The Taishi professor's question about acceptance stuck with me. His narrow tongue darted out of his green mouth, licking his eyeballs clean, a sign of discomfort among so many students, as his species were primarily loners. Despite this, he understood other species exceptionally well, hence his question. It launched careers focused on Homo sapiens sapiens, or humans. No answer followed his question. We, with claws, tentacles, and nails, scrolled through digital texts, searching for the word. What? The echo of his question faded against the walls. Unlike most professors, he conducted classes in person, demanding we socialize up close, which made us better students. His policy was spreading to other instructors. What is the meaning of family, he asked next. Our hasty searching picked up speed. My neighbor, a Chalon with a rubber touch assist over his slimy digit, typed the new word into the search bar. A hand went up before mine. The answer came from Chopus, an Avon race student coated in spiny feathers. He was top of the class after me. My frustration burned as he outdid me, only for relief to flood my air sacs when the professor shook his head. No, that is a definition, but not the one I mean, Professor Sex said, licking each of his 5 eyes in rapid succession. He hated correcting people but knew the definition he sought was not in the book. I raised my fur-covered arm, opened my elongated jaw, and spoke, trying to keep my tail still. Professor, no other meaning is present in the book. Please, can you tell us what you mean? He made a noise I'd never heard, imitating some species we hadn't seen up close. This marked the beginning. He pushed a button, and a curious creature appeared on the screen. His mouth made a double kind of noise. The bipedal species on screen had fur on their round heads, small thin lips, and only 2 arms. This is the species you will learn the answers to those questions from. If you understand this species, you can understand any species. In my 150 cycles of instruction and research, I have never found another like this one. They bond with inanimate objects, fictional characters, unknown infants. Outsiders as strongly as Vasan over raptor with its own eggs. We gasped, chirped, gulped, belched, and rattled our expressions of shock as different species. I know it sounds impossible, but this is the only species capable of finding family and forming communities out of any species, or at least any they've been observed with. They domesticate predators and bond even with species that might otherwise eat them, if one is rejected by its parents. It may find new ones or fill that role. There are stronger, smarter, faster, and longer-lived species, but none more passionate. They are in their mating season all year long, constantly forming new groups that grow and change. If you get one to bond with you, they will die for you without regret. There is no species as full of contradiction as Homo sapiens sapiens. They love and hate, deeply laugh, and are both greed and generosity given flesh. They appear weak. But these contradictions make them the apex predator of their planet. No invading armada dares cross into a system where a human colony has formed bonds with others. The great victory of 47592 was brought about by this species acting on a distress call from my own species when I was a child. A human starship responded instinctively to our call for aid and destroyed themselves in a suicide run which crippled the invaders. Self-termination for another species. The professor paused at the rhetorical question. It seemed at odds with reason. No species I knew would do that. Though I'd heard of that victory, the strange vessel was barely a footnote. Humans were not even named. A low rumble of doubt passed among us all. I promise you, it is true. I was there. That was the cause of the peace which followed. Self-termination for another species was unheard of, and the Zenti didn't know what to make of it. I was on the station during impromptu negotiations and began studying humans by both sides. I knew I had to learn more and spent my life among them as soon as I could. I spent 100 of their years in a single human community. Within 10 years, I gained acceptance, then became a neighbor, brother, and uncle. I watched their generations grow, age, and die. To my shock, I felt that grief myself. Knowing humanity's depths is finding them in ourselves. That's how I got here. That's why he leveled his shaking finger claw at us, and we sat more alertly. You will spend the next 50 years in an extended study of humans. Join their communities, learn about them and yourselves. When you're through, you'll know what family means in a way you never dreamed and carry that spark to your home worlds. Who can say what will happen? But I think we'll have a better galaxy for it. I felt certain he was right, perhaps due to his widespread reputation or because he handpicked us. His faith made us more confident in him. I was even more eager to study. What's 50 years? I thought. I didn't know yet, but in the last days of my 50th year I would know the answer. The best years of my life. But I'm getting ahead of myself. I should tell you my species. I'm Demisa. We're furry with 4 upright ears on each side of our head, slightly triangular. We have tails as long as a human arm. curved legs fixed at the knee, and 2 arms capable of locking at the elbow to run on all 4s. Our mouths are elongated with sharp teeth. My fur is a mix of russet red and black. I look somewhat similar to their dogs. As we neared the human sector, some chose not to make the trip, something they'd regret for the rest of their lives. The human sector was far, taking months of travel by even the fastest ship, until humans invented a new method of redoubling speed by electron recombination. But that's for the astrophysics department. I was concerned with learning as much as I could. The professor earned his status by providing us with a wealth of information in the days leading up to our trip: human entertainment, mythology, music, religion, and social conventions. That was the first time I realized why Homo sapiens sapiens can be so terrifying. It wasn't their love of fear, but that they needed the impossible to feel threatened. Anything else was ordinary. Their films told of human triumph, which some thought self-aggrandizing, but our teacher put it this way: humans made the leap into the void in 1/10 of the time it took my species to find the courage. They define themselves by their will to overcome anything, pushing beyond limits to make new ones for the next generation. Dying for a friend or ideal, a human will throw away their life for an infant. Where others might consider offspring expendable, they die happy if they believe their death made a better tomorrow. Their films show boundless potential. When I was a small one, humans came in with cannons blazing, saying they'd help us. It took ages to find a translation for yippee-ki. But they died to music and singing. There's something to fear, but also something to hope for. I immersed myself in more of their media pirate movies, war films, romances. I found it strange how they bonded to predator pets, but it was undeniable. When their dog creatures were cradled and cared for like infants, I realized the power of bonding. It was 2 months later when we encountered the first human patrols. Their vessels were much bigger, bringing miniature communities into space. Families bonded, mates, children, and even the old, who we would normally leave behind. It seemed strange. But when I first saw a human face, it was even stranger. They were flat, with small noses in the middle of their face. The human on screen had a thick black fur around his mouth and deep-set eyes. After pleasantries and ID exchange, we docked. The professor selected 3 of us to join him on board the human vessel, a chance to explore a little of the miniature society before reaching the whole hive of them on their home world. The vessel was military, with giant cannons. As we crossed the boarding tubes, a small hover vehicle waited. This highlighted my second experience with human design philosophy. There is no such thing as too fast, only how fast you can make it go. A small human female, I assumed, due to voice pitch and chest, told us to strap in. My tongue yanked out of my mouth as the ship became a blur. I was thrilled and scared. The air battered my face, my fur flying behind me. My tail wiggled with joy. The human woman's smile grew. My companions made noises of alarm. Chitin scales shed, and my roommate's stink sack activated, causing the hovercraft to swerve. The human laughed, keeping it swerving until we were upside down on the ceiling. Finding a proper translation for "we" that she kept screaming was hard. We lurched to a stop, rattling my bones. The professor finally said, "Shall we grab a beer?" The human woman's grin made the rest of our trip promising. My companions, voiding their orifices, missed it. I wobbled a little. The small human female immediately was by my side, her soft skin squeezing as delicately as a fan's feather. She gave me a smaller smile and asked, "Are you okay?" "I'm fine, thank you. Please don't worry about it. I knew what to say from the videos," and she responded with a broad smile. My professor's tongue darted out and licked his eyeball once, and I knew I handled myself well. "Please let me introduce you to some of my friends and get you all a drink on me," she said, pulling out a plastic card. Or rather, on the fleet's good relations account, she winked. Unsure of the deception or playfulness, I nodded. She approached double doors that slid into the wall. I was struck by the noise of voices. Humans were higher and deeper in pitch, a spectrum not covered in textbooks. Some seemed almost genderless, like my fluidic companion. The room was enormous, filled with tables and bars. My colleagues were mute, but I said, "Lead on." She skipped, her back to us, chatting like she'd known us for a lifetime. "We have bourbon and beer." "Place your cargo order on the screen. Is drinking important?" my fluidic friend asked. "Yes." "Very," she replied. In ancient Persia, disagreements were argued sober, then drunk. Arguments had to make sense in both states. Alcohol lowers inhibitions, makes us more truthful and open to friendship. Some become jerks, but avoid them. And it's fine. Her back smacked into a golden tube at the bar. Behind it, a bald, slightly overweight human with sharp hunter eyes. "Hey Mark, bourbon for my new friends and I wondered." I knew humans bonded quickly, but not this fast. Mark poured amber liquid into glasses and slid them to us. "A toast," she said, raising her glass. "This is liquid, not toast bread cooked twice," my colleague asked. Both humans laughed. "He's funny. I'm Lisa. It's something we do before drinking," wishing for something good. "Travelers like us toast safe travels." Lisa smiled broadly, then drank. We followed suit. It was my first experience with human competitiveness. Shot by shot, until my semi-permeable friend was a puddle, my professor's tongue dangled, and I embarrassingly passed out curled around her feet. I didn't learn until after my first hangover that humans had a special liver part for processing alcohol. It was my first painful experience with humans and alcohol. It wouldn't be my last. I woke up with a splitting headache, the professor slurring, and my chitin-shedding companion half molted. Our slimy colleague took half a day to re-solidify. We woke in a single room, each with a small wicker basket and a bottle of bourbon. A friendly note from Lisa, who I'd never see again: "Read to toast safe travels with the next people you meet, who have a long way to go before they get where they're going. All the best, Lisa." Her warmth reached me, as did the memory of that first human touch. Such openness and welcome weren't found elsewhere, not before, not since. Human diplomacy is second to none. They understand the needs and fears of others, presenting themselves as the ones to meet or dash them. They're uniquely social, becoming the arbiters of choice for multiple races. Lisa's friendliness was exceptional but not rare. Good humans really care, even for strangers. This helped me believe my teacher's story about the self-termination run. I never saw Lisa again. Our cargo was loaded, and we were escorted by the vessel we'd traveled on. The endless stars in the void terrified most species. But humans embraced it. Some said they evolved from material formed in space or shot to Earth from Mars. Nobody knows for sure. Their music played in the unbounded dark, and they sang to their deaths. When the alarm rang, announcing pirates, the reason why nobody would hump with humans became clear. The Zenti had shut down much of their military post-war, but some became raiders, minor warlords, and pirates. They attacked even in human territory, seeing education vessels as tempting targets. The ship shook, alarms, stinks, and cries audible everywhere. I looked to my teacher, who was calm. "We're in human space. Just wait," he said, pointing to the window. A fleet of a dozen ships appeared, green with wide wings and cannons. Their rays battered our shields. The ship shook, but my teacher's calmness kept me from voiding my bowels in fear. They gave us drink, food, supplies, and promised safety. "We'll be fine," he reassured those who doubted. I wondered if Lisa was on the ship he anticipated. Her memory was strong. Humans are infectious. Over the telecom came music, Ride of the Valkyries, and human voices on every channel. I pressed my eyes to the window, seeing the human ship emerge from the purple gas cloud. It began firing, explosions rocking the space around the pirates. "Just carry on your voyage, we'll handle these. Safe travels," said the dark fur human. Humans' pride in their professions, whether janitors or admirals, was evident. The human ship fought a dozen pirates and won. They are a rare type of predator, an active hunter species. They're the only known species that can run all day and night. The record for a human was over 3 days without stopping before collapsing. My professor said it like telling the time, highlighting their danger. Lisa and Mike seemed friendly and non-threatening, but the ship's courage showed their potential. I felt a tingle in my spine, common among humans. Their short lifespans might explain their energy. They say a candle burning twice as bright burns half as long, experiencing as much as they do. I'd trade lifespans with them. We survived the pirate encounter, but our captain abandoned our rescuers. It was practical and not criticized, but it showed a difference. Humans' willingness to fight and die was far in excess of their survival instinct. They sought the fight while we ran. This course creates an empire. Who do you want protecting your ship? Humans' madness, if that's what it is, has purpose and value. Our professor relayed more stories about his time on Earth, human customs, birthdays, drinking songs, sports, and child rearing. He became a grandfather to human children, knowing their names and death dates. This rare dedication showed humans' influence. I focused on his stories, learning about bashfulness. Humans find nudity troubling, creating clothing for protection. Their bodies are strange, with enough muscle to pull 17 tons, but only if all muscles pull in the same direction. They can't do that, and their limbs seem fragile without natural armor. But they produce a chemical that puts them in a frenzy, ignoring pain until bled dry. They fight until running out of murder fuel in their veins. Berserkers lost an arm and swung it like a club. They may sound like monsters, explaining their horror media, needing the impossible to feel threatened. It wasn't this that drew my professor, so I focused on his stories. The tiny mote of dust became a blue marble, our new home. I didn't miss my home, but my professor pressed his hand to the glass, eager to get closer to Earth. It didn't look like much, but it was something. The world ahead grew larger. Brace for entry, docking in one span came the voice. We strapped in, waiting for the rattling to stop. The bright yellow sun became a dot. Earth was very green, a strange shift from the black and blue plants I knew. The surprises began from the moment we exited our ship. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel. For every comment that says we will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.